Good evening, friends, and bless you. As we're about to come to the end of 2020, I'd like to share some of my hopes, dreams, and aspirations for the new year to come. Now, this is more so a friendly reminder that yes, we're going into 2021 with great hopes and prayers and dreams for a better year ahead of us. We do need to continue to create awareness about things like women empowerment. Now, looking at women's empowerment, it can be defined to promoting women's sense of self-worth or their ability to determine their own choices, their own rights to education, to making vital life decisions, and so forth. Now, it is a fundamental human right that's also key to achieving a more peaceful and prosperous world ahead of us. If we look at Western countries, for example, women empowerment is closely associated with specific phases of the women's rights movement throughout history. Now, I was able to jot down a few here, but I'm going to share. The actual movement splits into three categories, right? So the first began in the 19th and early 20th century, where we tend to see a lot of suffering taking place. I mean, if you look at Australia, for example, I believe history shows us that women were only able to attain voting rights in the late 1980s. So, I mean, that shows the extent of suffering. Also, if you look at Australian history, women weren't allowed to be holding things like property. Okay, it could belong to a male figure only, and there'd be quite a number of disputes over that. The second wave of the, for example, 1960s included, I guess, more of a gender-based revolution as we move towards the role of women in society. It was a sense of acknowledging that there's less oppression and more of a voice to be given to women where it counts. The third wave of women's empowerment that we see is the role of feminism, and we see that coming about in the beginning of 1990s. So, look, women's empowerment and promoting women's rights, it's essentially come about as a major global movement, and I think it's continuing to break ground over the years. It is gaining momentum, but despite a great deal of progress, women and girls continue to face discrimination and gender-based violence throughout the world. And for this reason, I wanted to share some further thoughts and facts with you. Okay, so we'll begin with looking at the women's empowerment principles. Now, looking at a global perspective here, created in collaboration between the United Nations Global Impact and the UN Women, the women's empowerment principles are used to empower women in the marketplace, workplace, and community. So we're looking at 7 essential principles here. Principle 1, to create high-level corporate leadership for gender equality. Principle 2, treat all people fairly at work, respecting and supporting non-discrimination and human rights. Principle 3, ensure the health, well-being, and safety of all workers, whether male or female. Principle 4, promote education, training, and professional development for women. Principle 5, implement supply chain marketing practices and enterprise development that empower women. Principle 6, champion equality through community initiatives and advocacy. Finally, Principle 7, measure and report publicly on progress to create gender equality. Now, that last one is also going to help create further awareness, but it will also highlight areas that may need vast improvement. Okay, so moving on the global landscape of women's empowerment. Gender equality is a basic human right, and it is also fundamental to having a peaceful, prosperous world. But girls and women continue to face significant challenges all around the world. Women are typically underrepresented in power and decision-making roles. They receive unequal pay for equal work, and they often face legal and other barriers that affect their opportunities at work. In the developing world, girls and women are often seen as less valuable than boys. Instead of being sent to school, they are often made to do domestic duties, domestic work at home, or are married off for a dowry before they are adults. As many as 12 million underage girls are married every year if we look at the United Nations statistics. While some progress is being made in various parts of the world, there is still a great deal left to be done to right the problems of gender equality. So, the important question here is, why is empowering girls and women so important? Why am I stressing on about this or emphasizing about this as we're about to go into 2021? Empowering women is essential to the health and social development of families, communities, and countries. When women are living safe, fulfilled, and productive lives, they can reach their full potential, contributing their skills to the workforce, and can raise happier and healthier children. They are also able to help fuel sustainable economies and benefit societies and humanity at large. A key part of this empowerment is through education. Girls who are educated can pursue meaningful work and contribute to their country's economy later in life. They are also 4 times less likely to get married young when they have 8 years of education, meaning that they and their families are healthier. So, how can you empower women and girls? Standing with and investing in women is an important start, okay? From workplaces and schools to homes and communities, women and gender equality underpins all of world and global work. Okay, so look, there are many great activities you can get involved in to support the rights of women in developing countries. A few examples: you could sponsor a girl. Okay, so if you see someone who is slightly disadvantaged, who comes from a background where perhaps they can't afford to have food or take a school lunch, or they can't afford school books, and they're not being assisted from anywhere else, you could perhaps provide those books or provide a school lunch, maybe throughout the week or once or twice a week. When you do that, when you sponsor a girl, you can give her the tools to gain an education and take back the rights she deserves. And I think this is a key way that girls can be empowered to grow up and influence their generation and the next ones to come. Secondly, how can you help? You can educate yourself by finding out about issues that affect girls. For instance, child marriage. Okay. Thirdly, you can reach out to organizations, both Fiji and abroad, and look at their approaches to helping girls escape gender inequality. Number 4, you could, if you can afford to, buy women's empowerment gifts. And that includes things like books, clothing, shoes that will help at school, and things like that. Look, I believe that healthy, educated, and empowered women and girls are agents of change. When women and girls are supported, they gain opportunities to speak up for their rights and also to advocate for their communities. They are also able to rise in social standing, and they can feed this into future generations. This means women's organizations women's empowerment policies, and women's charities can gain momentum and contribute to a stronger world. So folks, as we're about to go into 2021, this is a vital and important message, an incumbent one for you to take into the new year. Do not forget about our girls and women. The fight is still there. We must continue to advocate for girls and women and continue to create better and greater awareness so that we can walk into an empowered future hand in hand. God bless you. And thank you so much in advance for all the work that you're about to do.